Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Today, in this series on household disciples, we look at a great householder, Balaram Basu or Balaram Basu. It was now his house now in Calcutta, Kolkata, is a landmark of spirituality. So he was one of the earmarked disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who Sri Ramakrishna has said, one of the suppliers. In his colloquial use of the word, he said rasakdar, that is, he was the provider of the many necessities that Sri Ramakrishna and the other direct disciples needed. So let's begin his life with, he was one day, after he had become acquainted with Sri Ramakrishna, he was interested. Let's test Sri Ramakrishna. And so he had brought sweets for Sri Ramakrishna, and mentally he had selected 2 for Sri Ramakrishna. And he took them to Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna took those very 2 that he had seen, he had desired. And Sri Ramakrishna smiled. Now, he was so devoted, and yet at the same time he was so miserly, very miserly. So Sri Ramakrishna used to make fun of him also. See, Balaram Bose has now he's invited us, and now he's not going to leave us. He has given us a big feast, and he's going to make us sing and dance. And Balaram's idea of this kind of kirtan or this congregational singing is what? You sing your own songs and beat your own drums, because he should not provide even the musical instruments. That's Balaram's idea of, you can say, enjoyment of the devotees. One day, he told Sri Ramakrishna, you should come to my place via a boat, not a carriage. Because obviously the boat was much cheaper than the carriage. And so only carriage, only if you must. And then you're saying, one time you're saying, I was supposed to return to Dakshineshwar from his house in Balaram Bose, Calcutta, to Dakshin. And he's saying in those days the fare was 12 annas. That's pretty cheap. So Sri Ramakrishna, will 12 anna do? Is a hire for this horse carriage? Oh yeah, that's sure, there's plenty. And Sri Ramakrishna says, on the way to Dakshineshwar, Sri Ramakrishna was one side of the carriage broke. And then besides the horse stopped every now and then. It simply would not go. Once in a while, the coachman whipped the horse and then it ran a short distance. So he had bought a cheap horse carriage to take Sri Ramakrishna to Dakshineshwar. And Sri Ramakrishna was making fun of it. They were big, you can say, landowners, and in India it's kind of landlords. They had a huge estate, and because Balaram wasn't actively involved in its management or anything, his uncle and his cousin were looking after it, and they used to give him a kind of a monthly, you can say, stipend or something like that, kind of monthly income from all the investment and all everything that. So that was limited, and that's the reason why Balaram was very careful in his expenditure. That made him miserly. Though he wanted to serve Sri Ramakrishna, though he was still pinched for money. Now, he was born in a family of devotees. They were mainly Vaishnavas, the worshippers of Vishnu, and mainly of the Lord Jagannath. And he was the embodiment of humility. And in Vaishnavism, Sri Chaitanya writes, like Trinadapi Suni Chaiva, then Tarorapi Sahishnuta, Amanina Manadeya Kirtaniyam Sadahari. Be humbler than a blade of grass, and be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. This was Balaram's life. Humbler than the blade of grass, patient and forbearing like a tree, taking no honor to himself, giving honor to all, and constantly chanting the name of the Lord. This is what a devotee ideally should be. And when he used to invite Sri Ramakrishna or the direct disciples for food at his place, he used to stand, and he used to not sit down along with the guest. He used to stand, and the way he stood humbly, anybody would have taken him for a servant. He was of a kind of a fair complexion, and he wore the clothes of a kind of a Vaishnava, kind of a Bengali Vaishnava, but he used to tie a turban like a Sikh. And one time there was an incident in the whole chapter, Sri Ramakrishna's visit to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. And he was a great, you can say, philanthropist, scholar, reformer, everything. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, that is. The whole chapter. And after Sri Ramakrishna meets him and then comes out, and he's seeing Balaram, he's seeing somebody standing up there and saying, "Oh, is it Balaram?" Saying, "Yes, I've been waiting for a long time here. Why didn't you come in?" So you all were busy and everybody was listening to you. I didn't want to disturb the atmosphere. So this was Balaram. So you can see his characteristics, what it was like. Now Balaram Bose, I remember there was a monk. We had joined the order, and there was a monk who was looking after the estate side of the order's work. And then I happened to know that he was a lawyer in his pre-monastic days. Then I also learned that he was the great-grandson of Balaram Bose. And that, of course, we were kind of in awe of him. But looking at him and then looking at Balaram Bose's pictures, now that we have only one picture, two actually. Yeah, as far as we know that there are two pictures. And you could see the kind of the feature, the kind of similarities in the features. So Balaram Bose was born in 1842 in a very wealthy Vaishnava family. His father, Guru Prasad Basu, he had built a temple, a Radha Sham temple in Calcutta. And that whole area was called the Sham Bazaar. I didn't know all these, we used to go to mother's house, and before mother's house in Bagh Bazaar, there was Sham Bazaar. So we didn't know that it was Balaram Bose's grandfather who had built a temple, and the temple had become so popular that the whole area was known as Sham Bazaar. His father was also a great devotee, and so he was called Radha Mohan. He, towards the end of his life, he used to stay in Vrindavan, which is you can say, the center of Vaishnavism, of the devotional Vaishnavism. And he spent his entire life there serving devotees, worshipping in the temple, meditating, studying the scriptures and everything. So he had 3 sons and 2 daughters. Balaram was the second son. His father was staying in Vrindavan, which Balaram's grandfather had built. It's called the Kala Babu's Kunja. In those days, he had built it for 100,000 rupees. It's called 1 lakh rupees in those days. And it was just a few years ago that a part of that property now has been acquired by the Ramakrishna Mission. Because Balaram Bose's family, their descendants, there are plenty of descendants. I've met some of them. Even now, they're there. So there was this property there all over the place. They also had very large properties in what is called Orissa. And they had an office in Kothar. This is a place where even Holy Mother had gone and stayed there. Kothar is now also another place of the Ramakrishna Mission, one of the centers of the Ramakrishna Mission. So Balaram had imbibed that devotional attitude from his grandfather, seeing his grandfather and father. This is always like that. It's kind of these called samskaras, these impressions. And so he used to spend his time in japa and meditation. And he had married Krishna Bhavini, who happened to be the sister of who later became Swami Premananda. They used to stay in what is called Antpur. So they were married. Now that's the reason why, so they had 2 daughters and 1 son. And they named that son, I think it was Ramakrishna Babu. So Sri Ramakrishna had greatly, you can say, appreciated this whole family. They were very, very orthodox in their devotional attitudes and in their bhakti and in their observances of the, you can say, prescribed rituals in Vaishnavism. So he had, Balaram was not very healthy and he had always had stomach troubles. So he had stayed in what is called Puri. That's in Orissa. That's Jagannath Puri. That's the great temple of Jagannath. That's another center of Vaishnavism. So there he was kind of all right. And he used to drink only, and because of his stomach trouble, only kind of on milk and just a little plain, you can say, food. He was persuaded to come to Calcutta and stay there by his uncle and his cousins. And they had bought a house also, purchased a house, which is now the present house at 57 Ramkanta Bose Street. Told Balaram, you come and stay here. Because in Puri, Balaram was fond of meeting holy men, going to the temple, and neglecting everything else. But they were afraid that this guy might become a mendicant. He might leave the world, and then... So they had persuaded him to go to Calcutta, not to stay out here. While he was in Puri, he had read about Sri Ramakrishna in one of Keshav Chandra Sen's periodicals called Sulabh Samachar. Then a priest in their family, Ram Dayal, he had also written a long letter about Sri Ramakrishna, describing Sri Ramakrishna to Balaram Bose and asking him, you should come to meet this kind of great man. So he had arrived in Calcutta, and then along with this priest, Ram Dayal, they had gone to see Sri Ramakrishna on 1st January 1881. They went there, they saw the room, his room was full of people, and also there were all these, the members of the Brahmo Samaj. So when they had left to have their refreshments, Balaram Bose, who was sitting quietly in a corner, unobtrusive, Sri Ramakrishna looked at him and saying, you want to ask something? Then he asked, yes, sir, I want to ask something. Does God really exist? That is a question that everybody asks at some point or the other. Some people become believers, some people become non-believers, and some people still sit on the fence. So what was Sri Ramakrishna's answer? Certainly, he does. There. This is the conclusion. Balaram said, can a person see him? And what was Sri Ramakrishna? Yes. And you see, in Vedanta and Hinduism, you can understand, to see God is not a post-mortem thing. It is here, now, in this life, you can see God. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, God reveals himself to the devotee who thinks of him as the nearest, and this is important. When you feel God is mine, like you feel the body is mine, this mind is mine, this I, it belongs to me. Then you've begun the journey. Otherwise, then it's still far. I'm a devotee, yeah. God is so far away. God has to be part of your consciousness, your identity, the nearest of the near. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, just because you do not get any response by praying to him once, you must not conclude that he does not exist. Because you go through a lot of painful experiences and this and that. Is God? Where God? Does God exist? Impossible. So this is some of our conclusions, most of our conclusions. Then Balaram asks, but why can't I see him when I pray so much? And it is true, he has been praying all his life. He's seen his grandfather, he's seen his father, he's seen his uncles, and he's seen his cousins, and the whole family has been a very devoted family, constantly praying. So he says, then Sri Ramakrishna smiled and said, do you consider him to be as near to your heart as your own children? Yeah. So, children, yeah, it's mine. Child is mine. You might say, oh, this watch, it's mine, but yeah, it's okay. I can do without it. But something that is born out of you, you feel is mine. Everything that's connected to your body, it's mine. This is what Sri Ramakrishna teaches him, because he has to teach him according to his philosophic and devotional attitude. So he cannot give him big Vedanta. So Balaram says, no, I never feel that strongly for him. That is for God. Then the master says, pray to God, thinking of him as dearer than your own self. This is the key. This is the secret. This is the secret of knowing God. You must be able to pray to him as the nearest of the near than your own self. You see, our self has become so big. And divine things have become so small. It's just something in passing. You've got to do something because your big ego has become. When the ego becomes like this and the divine things becomes like this, then you see God. So Sri Ramakrishna said, he cannot but reveal himself to his devotees. If you take one step towards God, God takes 10 steps towards you. Why is that? Because the devotee understands that God loves me more than I love him. When you have this feeling there firmly, it means I'm taking one step and God is taking 10 steps. Then he says, there is no more intimate and more affectionate any person other than God in your life. And Balaram was thoroughly impressed. These are the questions that had been agitating him for a it agitates not only us, it agitating humanity. And it's like Sri Ramakrishna is speaking about this to the whole of humanity. Do you love God more than do you love yourself? If you can do that, if you have that, you can see him. Then he asked Balaram, where do you stay? What do you do? He asked about his family. Generally, he never used to ask people. He mentions it also a couple of times. I never asked people what is the relations, where they are. But he asked for Balaram. Then he says, look here, the Divine Mother, that is the Kali of Dakshineshwar, has told me that you are my very own. You're one of her suppliers. There are many things stored up for this place, that is, there are many things stored up for this place that are in your house. Buy something and send them. This is another attitude for devotees. There are many things for God which are stored in your house. You must be able to start giving God what you have. Instead of that, you're hoarding. Ah, no, this is not me and this is not me. And then say. So Balaram immediately felt that affinity with the master. And then looking at him, he's saying, see, he used to kind of often go into this kind of samadhi. And since he was a thoroughgoing Vaishnava, he had read the life of Chaitanya, where Chaitanya used to go into samadhi. What he had read all these years and had thought about it, he's seeing that manifestation here. So even the scriptures are now being authenticated through Sri Ramakrishna's life. He's seeing that. Because, when we read scriptures or we read sacred books, we may kind of doubt, and most of us doubt, and things are so distant. Oh, that happened 200, 300 years ago, maybe 1,000 years ago. Who bothers? Now it's not relevant. And the scriptures are just something like literature, something like poetry, or something like, okay, they're nice people, history, but they're not seen as life-giving because you have not authenticated it in your life. The scriptures have to be authenticated by you. That is the purpose of reading and studying and meditating on scriptures. People are saying, we read this scripture and we read that scripture. I also listen. I said, yeah, okay, good. Keep on reading. It's not doing anybody harm. There will come a time when you will start authenticating this, what is written is true in the scripture. Before that, you need somebody who has already done this. Authenticated, re-authenticated over and over and over again. And he's seeing the life of Sri Ramakrishna and his experiences. So what happens? You get faith in the scriptures. You develop faith in the things that have been there in the scriptures, in the oral tradition, in the culture, and everything. All these things, you get faith in that. Oh my God. Yeah, it's no longer kind of a concocted thing, the figment of imagination. It is there firmly. When we read the gospel, it's reading the gospel. But do you have that kind of faith? That this is what Sri Ramakrishna has said. These are the words of God himself. So Balaram was now thoroughly convinced about everything. And he used to now supply things to Sri Ramakrishna. So he went home that day, returned by a carriage, and he used to supply rice and sugar candy and farina, sago, barley, vermicelli, tapioca and so forth. Everything what Sri Ramakrishna needed for his diet, Balaram used to supply. He used to be miserly with his own family and all the other things. He used to save that money so that he can supply Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna says, Balaram's food is very pure. He used to say, Balaram, Shuddha Anna. That is, Balaram's food is very pure. When people say, oh, come to this food, come to this, and we will give you food and this and that. We know what it is. If your food is pure, how do you know the food that you eat is pure? You will think of God. It's automatically, the thoughts of God will rise when the food is pure. So that is the test. So Sri Ramakrishna says, Balaram's food is very pure. The members of his family for generations have been devotees. This is why it happens. And then they have been hospitable to monks and beggars. And he's saying, all the members of the family are attuned to the one ideal. There's in family life, you have plenty of friction because everybody is going their own way. But when you have a common goal, God, then everybody is attuned. And that's why he's saying, they never take a drop of water without saying their prayers. So first, when we wake up, first we want to drink water. Not them. That was the staunch devotees that they were. Sri Ramakrishna visited his house 100 times. This has been a record. Yeah. And Balaram had kept a record of all these things. 100 times. Sri Ramakrishna used to call Dakshineshwar the fort of Kali. And his Balaram's house is Calcutta Fort, or my parlor. And he was always welcome, Sri Ramakrishna. Not only that, even later, oh my God, His whole family, they had done so much. The house which Ramakrishna had, a room which he had gone, stayed, half that, it's a very large mansion. Half of it was given to the Ramakrishna order. And then there was a big litigation and this and that. The other half they were not giving. And I remember the Swami, who is now in Germany, he was also in the estate department, working in the headquarters. And he was kind of trying all his legal means to, and finally that part of that, the other part of the house also was given to the order. That was the part of the house where Holy Mother had stayed. Now that it's a nice small shrine for, and their family shrine and everything. So in the family shrine, we have Jagannath, Balaram, and Subhadra. This was the family deity. So he used to say, when he used to come to Balaram's house, so devotees who could not go to Calcutta, to Dakshineshwar, would come to meet him there. It would get convenient. And he had told Balaram also, you see, these souls like Narendra and Bhavanath and Rakal, they are very pure souls. Serve them. If you serve them, it's like serving God himself. Okay? And Balaram used to do that. And so there's something called a Rath Yatra. That is, the Jagannath at Puri is put in a kind of huge chariot and taken out of the temple, drawn out by thousands and thousands of millions of devotees pulling this. So that is recreated in almost every Vaishnava home and in neighborhood. So Sri Ramakrishna used to also attend that. One time he was there. And there was a kirtan, there was singing, and there was a lot of chanting and dancing. I remember the first time I had been there in that place, in that square veranda, and I was not too enthusiastic, But later on, I read all these things, and oh my God! And of course, Sri Ramakrishna had pulled that small chariot. We were also pulling the chariot. Hey, come. So that tradition is still followed now. Balaram was so impressed with Sri Ramakrishna. Now he asked his father also to come and meet Sri Ramakrishna. Balaram's father was very orthodox, staying in Vrindavan. He had come. So Sri Ramakrishna tried to break his too much orthodoxy. That is, just God is only this much. This is the only way God can reveal himself. God can be seen like that. And this is only the means. So he says, Sri Ramakrishna then told him, most people are one-sided. And all views, the Shakta, Vaishnava, Vedanta, have just one center. God is formless and also has form. They are all converging to that particular center. Everybody. So you should not put your nose up to people of other, you can say, denominations or other traditions or other kind of paths. Then he tells Balaram, first, God is the sweetness and the devotee is the enjoyer of the sweetness. Constantly. And then later, the devotee becomes the sweetness and God becomes the enjoyer. That's a wonderful. Sometimes I can use the illustration as, first the devotee chases God, pursues God, and then God then pursues the devotee. Yes. So he says the devotee becomes the bee. The devotee becomes the lotus and God the bee. It is the Godhead that has become these two. So, and the significance of this is depicted in this Radha Krishna episode, this Ras Leela, because the Vaishnavas are, fixed on this kind of episode, Radha Krishna, that one which was enacted in Vrindavan in Nidhuvan. It's a divine play. So this, it gives him the gist of what actually is. Now Balram, these Vaishnavas mostly, most of the religious people, they do not believe in killing. Okay. They are strict vegetarians and they don't believe in any killing, etc. So, and Calcutta is now, it's got, in those days it had big mosquitoes. He was worried, to say, well, should I kill those mosquitoes because they're disturbing my meditation? And he never used to do that. He let the mosquitoes bite and I should not kill them. So one time it really was pricking him. So he goes to Dakshineshwar because he had the dilemma. And he comes to the Dakshineshwar and he sees Sri Ramakrishna killing bed bugs. And Balaram saying, you see, these bedbugs, they disturb my sleep and then disturb my meditation also. I cannot get sleep. And so I'm killing them. And he had his answer. So it was okay to kill mosquitoes if they are taking your mind away from God. Okay. Balaram thought this he could have told me in the very beginning. But no, Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to become familiar with Sri Ramakrishna. That is, Balaram should become familiar with Sri Ramakrishna, and then he will be able to accept. We all give advice, for free. You meet somebody and we'll keep on giving advice. We are not really connected to that person, but we'll give advice. Sri Ramakrishna was not like that. First, he will see that does that person accept me? Does? Then he will. So this was Balaram. He used to get worried. There was one time when Balaram and his family were returning from Dakshineshwar to Calcutta, and there was a big storm, and they were returning by boat, and he was very worried. He was praying to Divine Mother Kali, see that nothing happens to her. And he was very agitated. See, the God himself is agitated for the devotee's sake. So Swami Yogananda, he saw Sri Ramakrishna agitated. He himself goes by carriage to Calcutta, gets the news that Balaram and his family has reached safe, and he comes back and tells him, and he was relieved. So one time, Balaram's wife, Krishna Bhavini, who was, as you said, Swami Premananda's sister, she was not well. She was very sick. Sri Ramakrishna tells Holy Mother, go and see her. And Holy Mother, she used to stay confined in that concert tower, Nahabad. How can I go there? There's nothing, there's no conveyance. Sri Ramakrishna, what? Balaram's family is on the verge of a disaster and you cannot go there because there is no vehicle? Go walking on foot, which is shocking that Sri Ramakrishna would tell somebody, because he was very careful about all these things, in those days at least. Fortunately, a palanquin was found and Holy Mother did go in. So that was how he used to take care of Balaram and his family, etc. So his uncle and cousin were managing the affairs, and they were kind of indifferent to Balaram's, you can say, being at Calcutta, so long as he was not mixing too much with Ramakrishna. And then they said, oh my God, look at him. He's neglecting everything and he's spending money to support Sri Ramakrishna and his devotees. So he asked his cousin to be brought here. And then saying, no, I don't think he will come here because he doesn't have too much respect for me. Then Sri Ramakrishna tell Girish Ghosh to bring him. Now Girish Ghosh was his classmate when they were young, their classmates. So Girish brought him here, and then Sri Ramakrishna just, while talking to me, touched him and changed his whole mind. And that's how. So when Sri Ramakrishna was struck with throat cancer, he was brought to Shampakur. Before that, he was put in a small kind of rented house, which was not comfortable. So he left that and came to Balaram's house. Balaram was then there. He was there. He's saying, you please come here. So he stayed for a week, and then he had another house was brought up. There's one picture of him after Sri Ramakrishna passes away, the group picture where he's standing there. So he was there. He used to, from his store, he used to keep on supplying things, necessities for Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother when they were in Kashipur. When after Sri Ramakrishna passed away also, Holy Mother was kept at his house. And then he sent her with the other, some of the disciples, Abhedananda, and you can say Latu Maharaj and all these people, to Vrindavan. They stayed for 1 year in that, their ancestral property, Kalababu's Kunja. And one time he went to the monastery. The direct disciples now had started a monastery. And he had gone there and he saw the frugal food that they're eating, just rice and spinach. So he returns home and tells his wife, see, listen, from today I'm just going to eat just rice and spinach. So she thought maybe he's not feeling well. Said, no, all those disciples of the master, they are living on rice and spinach, and why should I eat anything more? It's plain food. And then, so his wife had sent food there to the monastery, and he used to send every day 1 rupee in those days, which was quite a bit. And he used to find out if there's food stocks running low or something, either through the cook or through Swami Premananda, who was his brother-in-law. Swami Vivekananda, I remember when he had passed away, Swamiji was in his itinerant days, he rushed to Calcutta to be with the family. And Swami Vivekananda should say, our relationship is with you is different. If you push us out of the front door, we will enter into the back door. You cannot get rid of us. And Balaram Basu used to say, oh my God, you came to Sri Ramakrishna, I came to Sri Ramakrishna, but see how you have progressed. You are this, you are that and all. So Swami Vivekananda consoled him. You don't have to worry about this. Our life is different. Yours is different. And he says, as a result of much virtuous karma that you have a chance to serve a great soul like Sri Ramakrishna, this will glorify your dynasty. And actually it's now so. You don't need to practice all this renunciation and hard austerities. Because of your virtuous deeds, you have met the Master. What will you do with liberation and heaven and all these kind of things? It is love that is important. And you've got that love for Sri Ramakrishna. And Balaram then was kind of comforted, saying he understood that service to the Lord is as equal as meditation and japa, etc. So in 1890, there was an influenza pandemic flu. That wasn't a Spanish flu, because the Spanish flu came much later, during the First World War, during and after them. But this wasn't. There was a flu. And that time, in those days, people were kind of, we hadn't grown that immunity. So he was just 48. And he passed away April 13, 1890. Now, his passing away is related by Swami Shivananda. So during the last days, he's saying, where are all my brothers? That is, the monastic members were now like his brother. He never let any of his relatives be closed, saying, no, I don't want. So all the monastic disciples of Sri Ramakrishna had gone to Balaram, and they were with him for 3 days. And Balaram's health was going down. Doctors said he's not going to recover from this. And little by little, life was ebbing. But he was constantly talking of the master, and the direct disciple also talking to the master. Swami Shivananda did not mention how many of the disciples had been there, but at least 3 or 4 of them were there. I hope I'm right about that. And they were sitting there with him. And the last moment when they were there, when the time for him to pass away came, his wife and Yogin Ma and Golap Ma, we have seen their lives. They are great, 2 great household devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. They were with Krishna Bhavini in the inner apartments. The women used to have the separate quarters. They were kind of consoling her. They were praying and they were doing japa. And his wife says, his wife now, she also wasn't an ordinary kind of soul. She had a divine element. You see, Swami Premananda himself was one of the Ishvara Kotis. That is, they are the special souls that come along with an incarnation. His sister, that is Balaram's wife, also had a divine element of one of the attendants of Radha, the 8 attendants of Radha. So she was there, they all weeping, and suddenly she looks up at the sky, the blue sky, a kind of a dark kind of patch growing larger and larger, coming closer. And she sees that patch of cloud, and then she says, Swami Shivananda writing, saying, just then she noticed something like a piece of black cloud in the sky, which became denser by stages and began to descend. Soon it assumed the shape of a chariot. And then it alighted on the roof of Balaram, I can say, house. I remember being there on that roof many times. And Holy Mother, she used to be also on the roof. So the chariot descended on that roof. And then this vision itself raised her mind to a very high state. And then what happened? She sees the master come out of that chariot. He descends, the chariot descends, the master comes out. Sri Ramakrishna has long passed away, it's a vision. He descends the stairs, goes down to Balaram's room, where Balaram is dying, takes him by the hand, Balaram's spirit, the soul, and takes him in the chariot. Yeah. And then the chariot ascended, and then it vanished. So Swami Shivananda says that the death of each of the master's devotee is wonderful. And this was how Balaram, each one of us, we are not new in this world. You see, the problem is we think people think that they are new to this world, and this is the first time they have come here. This is all kind of, nothing can be more false than this. We've come here many times. We've done all these many things, many times. Nobody is new here. Everything is ancient. Balaram also was another. Like Sri Ramakrishna had seen that he was one of the companions of, in his previous incarnation, of Chaitanya. So that was Balaram. It's a wonderful life, very inspiring, and not much is mentioned in this particular chapter. But when you read the descriptions of all the other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, you will see Balaram always associated, and his house always associated with Sri Ramakrishna, with his disciples. His house became an open, you can say, refuge for Holy Mother, for the direct disciples, especially Swami Turiyananda, Swami Adbhutananda. They used to stay for days, years rather. Amazing, amazing. It evokes all those memories that we stop here for today. This is our next devotee, disciple, householder devotee will be Chunilal Basu. It's not too elaborate. We've got little information, but since he did come in touch with Sri Ramakrishna, it's worthwhile and worthy to discuss. Like Sunday, there will be at 10 a.m., 10 in the morning, Vedanta's concept of intelligence. And we have mother's children at 9:50, Sunday school. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay.